If you have a friend or family member that has lost someone and you want to know what to do, because you're like, I don't know what to do. They lost their brother. They lost their whatever. Listen. That's all you do. Just let them know you're going to listen and not be judgmental. You're not going to try and cheer them up. You're not going to try and change the subject. You're not going to try and give them some weird, statement or, they're in a better place. Just listen.
Welcome to Beyond Theory, a podcast powered by Meadows Behavioral Healthcare that brings you in-depth conversations with firsthand insights from the front lines of mental health and addiction recovery. I'm Dominic Lawson. How we deal with loss, whether it be the loss of a job or a loved one, can look many different ways. Josh Ulrich, virtual therapist of Meadows Behavioral Healthcare, says that whether you cry or don't, get mad or don't, as long as you feel or grieve as you live, then it's perfectly fine. But what happens when you don't feel it and we don't address what we are feeling? Let's get out of the abstract and see how this applies in the real world. It's time to go beyond theory. I wanted to ask you about week 6, grief and loss. You talked about earlier about your experience in working with family members who are dealing with grief and loss. Kind of talk about that part, because I know a lot of people, especially with everything going on, are having those type of conversations. Kind of talk about that week 6 a little bit more, if you don't mind, in depth.
Yeah, week 6. So for week 6, grief and loss, it's not just death. I know you asked me about actually family members that people died.
Right.
We lose everything. If you lose a house, you lose a car. Sobriety, you lose your drug, you lose your old habits. So we all grieve and loss. But the standard, if anyone wants to go on YouTube, look up the robot chicken giraffe. It's really hysterical. It's a giraffe who falls into quicksand, and he gets to go through all 5 stages of grief before he hits the bottom. All right, so the stages of grief are: you have denial, which is they're not dead, this didn't happen. You have bargaining, which is if only I was there, if only they didn't go out that night, if only they took a vaccine. You have anger, which is anger. And then you have depression, which is depression, sadness. Those 4 things you have to feel, you have to go through. And finally you get to number 5, which is acceptance, which is accepting they're dead. If you don't go through all 4, you don't never get to acceptance. So the key is you have to go through all 4. And you go all through. You can flip-flop between those throughout the day, throughout the week, but eventually you get to acceptance. One of the things we talk about both in hospice and here at Meadows is you have to refer the person as dead. It has to be that acceptance. They are dead, okay? They're not passed on. They're not in a better place. They're not just plastic in a farm upstate. They are dead. Once that you get that in your the verbiage, so that you're talking about they're dead, then it's a process that it takes a good year. And the reason why it takes years, you need to go through a full calendar year to go through all the major holidays, anniversary of their death, their birthdays, anniversary if it's a marriage. So you need to experience all the calendar year before you can really get through grief. One thing I like about week 6, but also expanding into grief therapy, is most of the time when someone's experienced a death, their emotions are a roller coaster. They're crying, they're happy, they see things, they feel things, and you feel you're going nuts. You feel your world has completely crumbled, because it has. You're on a single path. By the way, I'm condensing my whole grief, seminar into like 2 minutes here.
Got it.
So you're on a single path, and that path has changed. You're going down a road, your dad died, now on a different road, because your life doesn't have your father in it, or your mother, or your sister, or whoever. Your life has changed. It just can't be the same as it was yesterday when they're alive. It's changed. You have to accept you're on a new path. So going through the calendar year, you accept that. And through grief therapy, like week 6 or a grief group, you talk to others who've experienced the same emotions. And it's really all about validating and listening, because you need to tell stories about the person that died. You can tell the good stories and the bad stories. You need to feel that the anger that you have, because anger could be at God, anger could be at the other driver, anger could be at yourself, is normal. The sadness and the feeling you can't move on is normal. The feeling crazy and you can't remember where you put something is normal. The whole point is you need to realize you're not going insane. Everything you're feeling is normal. And the more people around you that are having the same thoughts and feelings, you're like, wow, it is normal. The therapist says it's okay to feel this way. Wow. And I tell my stories. I talk about the loved one who died. Wow, I feel better because I'm not stuffing it. I can cry and no one judges me. I can yell if I need to. No one judges me. I can laugh, even though they're dead and I'm supposed to be mourning, and no one judges me. So that therapy, the grief therapy, really helps. And in the outside world, usually about 6 to 8 sessions is all someone needs to kind of get through their life. Not that they've no longer, missed their person that died, but they can actually function. They can get dressed, they can get out, they can go to work, they can, do their daily life. I always like to say that death is a hole in the heart, but through grief and loss, it becomes a scar. So it never goes away, but it will heal over time if you actually process it. If you stuff it, you don't talk about the person that died. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to think about it. No one cries. I can't cry. I don't want to feel anything. Don't want to feel pain. I've been numb with drugs and numb with alcohol. Then you'll never process it. Then it will be a hole. It'll never heal. So you have to feel those emotions. Going back to telling stories, one of the most important thing when you lose someone is tell the good stories and the bad stories. We tend to either put people on pedestals or we make them demons. The pedestals, we make them godlike. Like, your father was the greatest man in the world. He's the greatest guy in the world. There was nothing wrong. He was always there for you. I'm like, you ever fart? You ever belch? You ever scratch his butt? It's like, oh yeah, you got to make him human. Because when you make him human, he's real and it hurts. Or the boyfriend that cheated on you. Yeah, he's horrible. He's a demon. Then why'd you date him? Why are you with him? Oh, he was cute. I liked his hair. Okay, well, there's something about him you like. And the key is you have to raise the demon up to be normal, and you have to take the godlike angel to be normal. Because when they're normal and they're human, you feel it. And they're real. And that's painful, but you have to get through that pain, that initial pain that hurt, in order to grieve and process. Otherwise, again, that hole in the heart will stay. So that's why a lot of people want to numb out. One quick phrase as far as grief and loss. The saying is, we grieve as we live. So everyone grieves differently. Some people cry, some people never cry, shed a tear. That's okay. Again, there is no right or wrong way as long as you process it and actually feel. The way you grieve as we live is, if you're a person who doesn't like to be around people, a little shy, and you suffer death, you're not going to want to be around anyone. If you're someone who wants to be around a lot of people, you don't ever want to be alone. And that brings us to a story of, I at hospice, there's a man where he just said pull the plug, but he was in life support and they were choosing to end the life support. It just got to that time. His daughter-in-law was there, but his son wasn't. Daughter-in-law was telling me that she was very upset that her husband wasn't there for her father's last moments, for his father's last moments. And I asked her, where is he? And she said, he's out golfing. And I said, okay. And I asked her, well, when he gets stressed or when he gets, really upset, what does he do? She says, well, he always plays golf. He always plays golf. I said, okay. I guarantee you, as his father's last moments, he's on the golf course. And that's who he's thinking about. Every putt, every swing, he's thinking of his father. Because that is how he grieves. That is how he's mourning his father. That is what we do. One person may bake a bunch of pies, one person may play golf. But as long as we feel it, as long as we're in it, and we're getting through all the denial and the bargaining and anger, and we accept it, then you can move forward. It's when we avoid the pain and use the drugs, use the behavioral addictions, that's when the pain lasts forever. You have to feel it. You have to acknowledge they're dead. It doesn't work otherwise. But when you do it, it works. It's one of the few things. I said 6 to 8 sessions. The 1 week we burn letters. That you say goodbye letters. We burn at the end of the week. The process of mourning, the process of talking, the process of feeling is how you get through it. It's painful, but it works. And last thing I'll leave you is, if you have a friend or family member that has lost someone and you want to know what to do, because you're like, I don't know what to do. They lost their brother. They lost their whatever. Listen. That's all you do. Just let them know you're going to listen and not be judgmental. You're not going to try and cheer them up. You're not going to try and change the subject. You're not going to try and give them some weird, statement or, they're in a better place. Just listen. Because that's all the person needs. They just need to be able to share the stories and cry or not cry. So the best thing you do for someone who has suffered death in their life is be there for them and listen. Don't talk outside of like, yeah, that's horrible. Or it sounds like you really missed them. And they're really wonderful. Or, yeah, that was a shitty thing they did. But just listen and be present. That's the best you can do.
When you hear stories like that young lady and others of people that you helped, what does that mean for you, like personally, that you was able to help her or the countless of other people that you have helped on your journey? What does that mean for you personally, Josh?
Oh, it's wonderful. As I said, in sales, there's a thrill of, hey, I got the big sale, I got the deal. But it's fleeting and there's nothing real value to it. When you help someone like this young woman out, you really feel you've made a difference. Society, life. But my work in the Gila River Indian Reservation, I said, it's just a planting seeds. That, no, I'm not going to change the entire, structure of society. I'm not going to, this massive, change. But if it affects one person, if one kid, if one adult now knows how to interact with someone in a more appropriate way, how to reach in and process their emotions, know that they need to call their sponsor because, wow, this is what a craving is. And this is what I need to do. Or even just have one less night of nightmares. That's huge. So I'd love to say curing someone would be awesome, but we don't cure. We treat, we help, we plant seeds, and I just, hopefully long term just will grow and fruit. So that's all analogies, but it just feels awesome. If you want like a keyword like it's awesome, it's great, dude. Love it.
Gotcha. Well, awesome. I appreciate that. Well, let me ask you this really quickly, because you talked about earlier and just now about your background in sales and stuff like that. Has that experience helped you become a better therapist, or were there some attributes that you learned from business and sales that has helped you be effective in what you do now?
Yes, it has. Because you can, and you've met salespeople before, whether they're in date myself at Best Buy or like on a car lot, where that idea is I got to get you in, get you the item, and get you out. The bigger ticket, the more commission I make. And usually when you buy something, you walk out wondering, did I get a good deal? Did someone stiff me? Do I really want this? And you debate, you're unsure, you're not really happy. And I've had too many times in sales where, customers would come back and, with issues, and they weren't satisfied. But if you really listen to them, if you find out what do they need, why are they calling? Why are they in the store? Why are they in the lot? What is their actual need? And if you can meet that need, then not only did you achieve your purpose and they're happy, but they'll keep coming back happy and keep coming back to you because they have more needs. They have more issues and they feel that you can solve it. If you can, they trust you to point them in the right direction. So just in order to get long-term sales and more referrals, you have to treat your customer like a human being, that you actually care about them. And so that is something I expect to counseling, because I can sit there and just tell you, stop drinking, don't drink. You're an alcoholic, don't drink. Well, man, that ain't going to really make you want to stop drinking, is it? But if I find out why, what's going on, You want to stop drinking because you realize you're not really present for your son. You're having issues with your wife. You're fighting a lot. You're staying out. You don't want to go home. Let's talk about that. What's going on? What are some issues with your son? It's because of the way you're treated. Maybe you don't know how to be a dad. Maybe you feel too much pressure. Maybe you never really learned how to communicate your feelings. So you're saying things you think your wife wants to hear, or and she knows you're putting up walls. So let's deal with that. And what do you know? That desire to drink really isn't there as much. So now I've taught you skills. We've looked at your issues. We're dealing with those. And your sobriety is going to be more long-term. You still need the supports. You still need the meetings, but you're not going to be fighting it. You're not going to be sitting there denying that alcohol has no impact on your life. So that's how I use sales.
Josh, lastly, I would just want to say thank you so much for coming on the Beyond Theory podcast.
No problem.
For sure. Last question, man. There's somebody out there listening to this episode and they're trying to seek help, but they're not sure how to move forward. They're not sure if they even want to, or they're just unsure about the entire process. Kind of speak to that person right now, if you would, Josh.
Oh, man, that's going to trip me up. So I'd love to say call intake. If you want, on a serious note, if you really want help, you know what to do. If it's an addiction, go online, type in AA, type in Cocaine Anonymous, Heroin Anonymous. There's depression. Start with a meeting. Go. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. You'll see people that have your same issues. You can go on there. You can talk. You can listen. And probably listen is probably the best thing to do. And from there, you can find more meetings and more places to talk. If you're looking for more help, maybe it's trauma. Maybe you've gone to those meetings, but you need more. Then the key is to look for your psychiatrist, therapist. If you want treatment like at the Meadows or here for the virtual IOP, you can contact our intake department. If you go on our website, I believe it's like meadowsbh.com. There's a number, give them a call to walk you through the process. If you don't want to do VIOP or our program, there's other programs out there throughout the state, throughout other states, and you can seek out help. I would go online and Google. There's a Psychology Today as well, and you can type in. If you have insurance, go to insurance and type in, you want therapies, counseling services. Find out who you have in your area. Reach out. There's plenty of different services out there that people can help you. Do not feel ashamed. Everyone suffers, whether you're an Olympic athlete or you're a professional, basketball, football, tennis player. People have massive depression, anxiety, trauma, movie stars, presidents, senators, everyone suffers from something that has happened in life. No one's had a perfect life. No one has no addiction. Maybe you're not addicted to chemicals or drugs, but it's food, or it's gaming, or it's sex, or it's shopping, or whatever. What do you need? If you need help, ask for it. Reach out. There's no shame in getting help. There's no shame at all.
Josh Ulrich is a virtual therapist for the Meadows Outpatient Center's MBH Connect. He runs the Arizona Virtual IOP Group, working with individuals from all over the state, leading them through processing their emotions, thoughts, feelings, and experiences. Find out more about his work at themeadowsiop.com/locations/virtual-IOP. Beyond Theory is produced and hosted by me, Dominic Lawson. You can discover more, including videos of some of our conversations, at beyondtheory.com. Finally, thank you for listening, and I hope you join us next time for another episode of Beyond Theory.